These are the reasons for loss of biodiversity. Then, why is there any theory explaining no? What happens when slowly one after the other a plant is getting lost, a species is getting lost? What happens? What exactly happens? Is there in some way we can visualize what happens ultimately? Sir, you are saying all the time there is a reason for a plant. Say you have about 20,000 species. In that 5, 10 or 100 or 1,000 plants are lost. How the system is going to be damaged? There is one beautiful hypothesis put forward by one Mr. Ehrlich, Ehrlich, Ehrlich. He hypothecated in a beautiful way for anybody's understanding. Here, you have to visualize what I am saying. He says there is no clear example in scientific terms. Now you cannot say what happens in a particular species is lost. See, you can't attribute the usefulness of any species, any particular area that becomes, you have to attribute reasons. 100 species are lost, 1,000 are lost means no. You have to say how these 1,000 are going to help where. It's a long story. What he says is that you simply visualize. He called it as a Rivet-Popper hypothesis. Rivet-Popper theory. RIVET. Rivet is nothing but a screw or no a nut which you are no fixing anywhere. With the help of a nut, no, you can fix two things. You can join two things: wooden parts, iron parts, metal parts, anything. He says you assume an airplane. Airplane is fixed with thousands of nuts. The plane, if you see, the wing you see, there will be, you can know thousands of nuts you can see from the above. Inside seats, each seat is attached, one part to the other is attached with a nut. These are all called rivets. See, what happens, passengers come. That means a plane is built in that sturdy fashion with, let us say, a lakh rivets. So you are not getting any sound, you are not getting any oscillation sound. It's really sturdy. Though each part weight is less, you will see when it is fixed together, it's giving a very strong feeling, very sturdy feeling. Well, each day, many passengers will enter and go. Likewise, it's carrying each passenger. Assume each passenger is taking away a nut every day, a nut from the seat every day. Likewise, after some time, initially you will not find any difference. Still, 100 nuts are lost, 1,000 nuts are lost here and there. But still, the flight will not give, the plane will not give you any sign of weakness, any sound. So it functions properly. But assuming, say after 6 months, majority your nuts are taken out by the passengers. You start finding some sound inside when you sit there. Some start wobbling, some are coming out, and some with jerk sound, some are falling apart. Okay. If it inside it's happening, fine. What happens if nuts on the wing are taken out like that? Will you able to fly? Will it give safety to the passengers? Can you depend on the plane anymore? This is the way he says. Slowly, when you are taking out one species after the other by the mankind, after some years, you will not find the safety of the ecosystem. The balance of the ecosystem will not be there. The characters which that ecosystem or community has to maintain, it will not maintain because you lost majority of the species. And you never know, like a nut on the plane wing, if these species happen to be very critical examples for continuity of the biodiversity and then no ecosystem, what happens? The entire ecosystem falls. So this is called a Rivet-Popper hypothesis put forward by Mr. Ehrlich. And this is in a wonderful way you can feel what happens when you are taking out species after species. Taking out species is nothing but extinction. That means once it was there, now you are not finding it. That is extinction. So what is required here? You have to stop people taking away the nuts from the seeds, from the wing. You have to protect the nuts by some means. This is called preservation. The requirement of conservation, preservation or conservation, the requirement of conservation of biodiversity is to safeguard the human existence, to safeguard the interests of the human beings, to safeguard the ecosystem and natural characters of the ecosystem, so that coexistence of diverse species and human population, they coexist for some more years in a comfortable way. How to conserve? What are the methods of conserving? There are two methods: in situ, ex situ. In situ, INSITU. This is not an English word. In situ means within. That's the meaning of in situ. You are seeing a forest, entire forest, without disturbing anything in the forest. If we can safeguard interests, not touching anything inside it, and you are allowed to continue the forest to be on its own by promoting uh, non-disturbance to the forest ecosystem. This is called in situ. Is it possible? Long tracts of forest, keeping them as they are, it is difficult. Let us say we take the case of a Royal Bengal tiger. Let's say this tiger will not confine itself to a particular area. It roams hundreds of kilometers in a forest area. That means to protect the tiger, you have to keep the entire area where it is moving on a regular basis without any disturbance. If this is possible, this is called in situ. In situ, how to conserve? There are many ways. The terms which I am going to tell you will inform you the areas how this is being protected. The areas are being protected without any disturbance by the human beings. This is a legal thing. A government has, through an act, it has, these measures are implemented through an act which is very legal. The funds are being given by the government, central government, under the ministry. The funds are allocated to protect these environment, protects these animals under conservation. Well, the examples for in situ are, there are national parks. National parks, about 90 national parks are there in India, wherein each national park, the location is, it is definite, the boundaries are definite, nobody, no kind of a human activity is allowed inside the national park. Whatever flora and fauna is there in the national park, that is being protected by allowing non-interference of the human beings. This is a national park. I will give you a list of national park. You will also find a list of national park. Nobody will ask you a question about list of national park, but no, for some of the important national parks where a particular animal or plant is protected, conserved, you will have to remember those names, which I will be dealing probably in the next class. I am giving the list of national parks and all that. National park is one of the, and second is sanctuaries, wildlife sanctuaries. That means here designated animals are conserved by protecting the entire area without any human interference. They are looked after well and they are taken well care of. These are the wildlife sanctuaries. Then biospheres. Biosphere is nothing but an area declared by the government legally. It's similar to national park, similar to wildlife sanctuary. The boundaries are fixed. Here, national park and then no sanctuary, wildlife sanctuary, no human interference is allowed. But whereas biosphere, it has got a diverse, notified diverse plant and animal species, but the very structure of a biosphere is nothing but it will got three parts. The inside the area is called a core area. After the core area, no human interference is allowed. Just like wildlife sanctuary or national park, that area is 100% protected. Adjacent to core area, you will find a buffer zone, where in the buffer zone, you will allow study education related, research related activities by the human population can be allowed there. But there also poaching, hunting, such kind of things are not allowed. Even felling of the trees is not allowed. But it is for educational purposes. In that particular area, you can allow human interference. Adjacent to buffer area, there is a third area, outermost layer is called transition zone. In the transition zone, then can be human population, human residences can be there, and tourism kind of a plans can be there. Here, all kinds of human interference, human activity will be there, but keeping in view the requirements of the core zone of the biosphere, the requirements of the species, plants, flora and fauna, which is in the core zone of the biosphere, all activities have to be regulated by the human in the transition area. If this is not confusing to you, I will go once again what is a biosphere. Biosphere is a designated flora and fauna area which definite boundaries, which is legally declared. Again, it is meant for protecting the biodiversity. There is an inside core area where human interference is not allowed. Adjacent to core area, there is a buffer zone. Research, academic based things are allowed here. Adjacent to that, there is a transition area. In the transition area, human population will be there, and then no activities which are not causing disturbance to core area can be allowed here. This is biosphere. India has got 14 biospheres. Each biosphere has got a significance. I will deal with these biospheres. I will list out and I will give simple one or two important points of each biosphere in my subsequent class. Then there are community reserves. That means reserve forest. The next one is a reserve forest. Reserve forest is nothing but an area which is there, a forest area. Limited human intervention is allowed, but poaching and hunting is not allowed. Limited intervention, some of the plants which are not of any use, they can be given permission, and collecting the minor forest produce can be allowed. This is for reserve forest. The community reserves are there. Some population decide to protect the environment which is near to them, some kind of a forest which is near to them. This is wholly dependent on the contribution of the human beings who was to take the protection of the environment. These are all protecting in situ, conservation of biodiversity in situ within the original natural formation. These are the various things meant to conserve the biodiversity. Some natural spots are there. They automatically, because of their importance, they naturally, they are now identified as in situ conservation points. They are called hotspots, hottest of the hotspots, and then hope spots. Hotspots in the world, there are 34 hotspots. Out of that, India has got 4 hotspots. 4 hotspots: Indo-Burma, Andaman and Nicobar, and then Himalayan region, Western Ghats. These are the 4 hotspots. There are some conditions which require an area to be called a hotspot. In each, when an area can be termed as a hotspot means there should be endemic species to the hotspot area. Endemic means which are restricted, which are occurring in that area only, which are not occurring in other areas. This is endemic. Likewise, 1,500 minimum endemic species should be there in that hotspot. The second thing is natural vegetation. That means now already original vegetation, at least 70% would have gone. Remaining 30% is there, protecting these endemic species. When these two conditions, when they satisfy these two conditions, that is termed as a hotspot. 1,500 species of endemic species should be there. Second is natural vegetation should have been lost by 70%. These are the two conditions to be termed as a hotspot. What is the hottest of the hotspot? Hundred square kilometer area. This number of number of species decides whether it is to be called a hotspot or hottest of the hotspots. Then, what is a hope spot? Hope spot, hotspots you are calling in terms for flora and fauna. Hope spot is nothing but aqua endemic species, aqua population, selected ocean zones are called hope spots. In our Andaman Nicobar area, the hope spot is there. There are 2 hope spots where aqua animals, aqua items are identified under hope spots. There are 2, Andaman Nicobar area and Lakshadweep. There are the 2 hope spots. Well, I told you about now in situ. What is ex situ? Ex situ means now I told you in situ means now whatever is there originally you are protecting that is an in situ without disturbing the ambience. You are protecting the flora and fauna in the area, that is in situ. I have given you examples. Now what is ex situ? Ex situ means taking out from the original area, natural area, and cultivating or protecting in a different area by taking all care is ex situ. You have disturbed it, you have taken out that from that area, and then you are protecting it in a different area scientifically by taking all care. That means why this situation comes in an in situ area, very limited number of species are there, which might get extinct in another 10 years. You will have to take all care that you have to protect the species, you have to increase the number of the species, and you have to keep it for posterity. You have to preserve its germplasm under its seed bank. You have to make available this germplasm to all over the world for any kind of an experiments. That is the requirement for continuing the protection of this biodiversity under ex situ conditions. Botanical gardens is one example. You take a plant from some forest area, you bring it to a botanical garden, you plant it there, you take every care, and then no, that grows, that multiplies into many number, and that flowers, gives many more plants. That germplasm is maintained, that is used for tissue culture, or that is used for producing different kinds of plants for hybridization, if at all it is having useful traits. Then the zoological park is an ex situ example where animals from different habitats are collected, brought, and artificially you are creating an environment and its habitats you are protecting by giving them food, by giving them medical care, and then now simulating the area where they are moving. That same area you are creating here, you are protecting those species here in a zoo. This is also an ex situ.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Shall we continue in the next class, sir? Malyadri garu, next speaker is waiting.
Okay.
Will you wind it up? If there's any summary you have to
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. So in situ, ex situ, I told you these are the two methods of conservation. Now what is left out for me is that there is a Wildlife Act, a Wildlife Preservation Act, Conservation Act. In this, there are few schedules which I have to tell you. There are few protocols I have to mention, and then there is a red book. In that, what is a endangered species, how the species are categorized, what are the conditions for that, and in which category what comes, and what project is launched by the government to protect that particular endangered species. These things I need to cover, wherein no, here also you expect some questions. I will be able to continue this in my next session. Thank you.
Thank you very much.